Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not Too Comic Book. This being a show where I talk about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the Echo series finale, potentially could be a season finale. Either way, a lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. Like I was saying earlier, we'll talk about that discussion of whether or not this is like a series finale or finale. It's kind of a series finale, but we'll talk about that more later on. Like I said, I thought it was great, but I could see it not working for everyone in a multitude of ways. I could see it being like, for one, it's not as action-y packed. Like people were probably hoping for at least like one more large action sequence type of situation, and you get a tiny bit. But I also think that's always that interesting double edge, because it's like that's people's biggest complaint about the MCU of like, oh, you have like this third. I mean, to be fair, that's usually like a third act CG fight that no one cares about. That's kind of the biggest complaint. This would have been a grounded fight, but it's like it didn't go the way you thought it probably would have. And the repercussions of that in the long run, we'll talk about that when we get there in the story. But I thought it was so interesting, the opening we got. It kind of goes back to last episode a little bit. It's like, because last episode was about Tallulah, even her episode was named after her, but it focused a little bit more on Chula, and now it's like you get Tallulah like there for Maya, who like shot a bird out of the tree. And she's like, oh yeah, I found it. Like, it fell out of a tree. And she's like, it didn't fall out of a tree. It's like, no, I wanted to see, I didn't mean to hurt it. I just wanted to see if I could hit it. And her mom says, like, right, we don't hurt living things. And she even says, like, these birds have significant, what was the word? It's, Biskinic. I'm butchering that. I'm sorry. But I believe she was saying that basically the Choctaw, like send a message, and these birds, these kind of woodpecking birds, like they delivered that message. They're supposed to warn of danger, and so her mom ends up healing it because she is a healer. And then you cut to the accident, and you're like, interesting, because I think the bird was nearby too or something, right? And it's symbolic in many different ways. For one, she healed the bird that's kind of warning about danger, and she ends up dying because the bird wasn't in that scene, but it was in the scene previously when Trula had seen it and kind of gotten a weird feeling. Is because those birds warn of danger, and she saw one that night of the accident. So you're like, interesting, like. I'd almost wondered like if there was something even deeper to it, that Maya's the one that hit the bird and that she ended up healing it, but because it was kind of a thing. Maybe it was kind of this little deeper even level of irony because Maya wasn't paying attention to that, and obviously she carries a lot of that pain and a lot of blame for what went down, and so that's why present day she's just running away from everything. It's like, right, I'm not going to go back to Fisk, but I'm also not going to see around my family. I can't be back around Fisk after everything that's going down. I can't be who he wants me to be anymore. Like, I've got all this anger. Like, I'm not good for anybody. I'm no good for my family. I'm just going to get them mixed up and stuff. I'm just going to leave. I'm done too much. I carry too many sins to be around my family anymore. But the problem is, Fisk wasn't just going to take this down lightly, because he's kind of a bit of a... He has his man baby moments where it's just like, hey, like, you didn't do what I wanted you to. Well, and again, it's like, I love you. I sacrificed everything. I forgave you. You tried to kill me. I forgave you, and you still won't accept my love. You were my everything. And it's like, what does he do when it comes to, like, when you won't bend the way he wants you to, he will break you. That's kind of his philosophy. And it's just like, and I guess he doesn't recognize the traits, how similar he is to his dad, where it's just like, that anger is a byproduct of his dad, the abuse his dad dealt out to his mom, and once again, how conflated and complicated it is, because he also loved his father, but also it's like killing your dad too, like what that anger's been inside of you, it's a part of you, and that ends up being this, the message in the entire episode. I mean, it's all been about both of their pains. It's like their pain is what united them. It's what brought them closer and closer together, because it's like misery loves company kind of almost situation, but it's like your pain echoed out to my pain, and we're both just angry and filled with pain of what we've been through. So obviously Chola didn't show up, and nor did Bonnie, and so Biscuits reached out to Maya, and it's just like, wait, did he do something to him, like, because I didn't go back with him. And she goes back home and she finds her mom waiting. And it's just like the first, like, all this time she's been seeing all these other people, and now, of course, the final person would be the previous person in line. Especially because, once again, like, the person that, her and Shola don't have a great relationship, but the next, like, line in this lineage is her mom, and it's just for her mom to be the last person there, because it's the person before you that carried that torch. And her mom is telling her to let the pain go, but she's like, I can't, It's like, I'm here to help you. I'm here to help you heal. Because it's like, you kind of have to, this power, like, where you go, we are with you. Me and your ancestors, they were there for me, and they will be there for you. You carry that torch. Your job is to don't run away anymore. Stay. Because she's like, I'm too messed up. I'm too filled with this darkness. I've done too much. There's no way I can just be happy in that home. I can't do that. And it's just like, she can't let that pain go. And she goes back to that. Because I thought what was going to be revealed is maybe her mom died saving her. I thought like maybe her mom used a little bit of her strength left to heal Maya and died. I thought maybe something similar to that was going to happen. But it's like, no, her mom took her back to that moment. It's like, this pain, this moment is where all your pain start. And it's just, you've been running from this pain ever since. It's just been a cascade of things compiled on each other. This pain is the reason why you didn't reach out to your family. You didn't try to. This pain is the reason why Fisk saw something in you, why he took you in even further. Like, he saw from a young age there was a little bit of like that anger and that sadness and all of that grief and pain there that he could resonate with, because he found so much common ground with, of like, he saw so much of himself in her, especially at such a young age. So I think she just couldn't. This pain has been a part of her since she's a little girl, and like I said, it's just since then compounded on itself. But it all stems back to that moment, and her mom heals her, just saying like, right, once again, that your ancestors, we're here, and we're always here for you. We echo through you. Once again, I love that being kind of how that comes through. And there's the thing her grandmother was working on. It wasn't made specifically for Maya. I don't know if it was, but we know that I guess she was inspired to make it, and I don't know if she was hoping Maya would wear it. I mean, it obviously fit her, so I don't know if that was the ultimate plan, but I had brought that up last episode. I was like, I'm curious if Chola is going to end up making her a suit, just kind of like how Kamala. I was literally about to say Iman. Like, that's the actress who plays Kamala Khan. But I was going to say, like, if Kamala's mom made her suit, I was wondering if it's going to be kind of a similar thing in this boat, and it kind of was. It isn't, at least from the little pictures I saw, because I've only seen Echo, like, comic book wise. I've seen like her in one picture comic book wise prior to now, so I didn't really remember what she looked like. So I was like, is this part of her traditional outfit? It's like, no, but I think it's like bringing her heritage into the show and kind of giving her a suit based around it. But I don't think it's anything comic book related. It's more like a childhood like garb, rather than like even like incorporating like the childhood garb into like something. You get what I'm saying? Because at least with Kamala's suit, it's like, yes, her mom made it and what it represents, but it's still like comic book accurate. I don't know if it's the similar thing of why she has a suit in the comics, probably not, but I was wondering if it was going to be a similar thing. But it seems like it's more like a childhood thing, rather more about her heritage rather than it is just even comic book accuracy, because it seems like her regular clothes will be like closer to what she traditionally, because she's, at least all the pictures I saw of her just skimming Google really quickly, just seemed to be her all in black. So I guess they're not also going to do that either, because like, once again, the whole like, she wears white paint over her face sometimes. I don't think it's all the time, but it's supposed to represent like when her dad died. I don't remember if that was from her dad or Kingpin, but it's supposed to be a handprint on her face. You kind of got an homage to that in Hawkeye when her dad touched her face and she had those blood handprint on her face. It's supposed to be in like the center of her face, like it's supposed to cover like a good chunk of her face, but like, I guess they figure that they're not going to go that comic book accurate. I mean, maybe it's something they'll utilize later on. Maybe not. That might be all you get of that. But my point is, it seems like it wasn't designed to be like comic book accurate. It was just like, no, like in this moment, like to be connected even more of her people, she wears this. And so Fisk, like, it's going to use them as bait to draw Maya out, but also because he wants to cause the most destruction because it's easier to live in your own pain when you have someone else there who's in that pain too. And it's just like, right, you were mine. You were kind of basically like a daughter to me. You were like, I sacrificed so much for you, and you spurned my love away, you know? It's like, but I think Wilson doesn't recognize the irony behind that, considering it's like, it's not the same, but I think parallels can be drawn, and maybe this is me overreaching, and you can completely disagree. I think there is something to be said about your father and mother, like how abusive your father was to your mother, and you kind of replicating that with Maya in a lot of regards, because once again, it's like, you don't do what I want you to, and you have this power and control over her, and you want her to be who you want her to be, which is ironic because you're like, you're telling her later on, I'm not going to be who you want me to be. So I think that's the interesting irony behind, like, the further, deeper layers to that irony. But Maya ends up confronting Fisk, and he's going like, all right, she's like, my legacy, my family, they are my blood, they are my legacy. I am their legacy, I am not yours. And for him, that was just, and that's what she was supposed to be. Like, because he doesn't have any children of his own, and she was that for him. But it's like, he saw his future in her. And it's like, once again, you spurned all that. So he was like, fine, I'm going to hurt you like you hurt me. You broke my heart. You know, ironically, just because everything about the family dysfunction is because of broken hearts. Like, from Chula's perspective, and you know, what did Maya say? She's like, "Oh, you chose yourself in your moment of grief and pain. You chose yourself." It's, you know, and it's like what Fisk is doing now. It's like, in my continued pain, I shared, I opened, I did so much for you. I built you up. I gave you a purpose, and you do this to me. You, once again, you continue to spurn my love. Sad. But in that moment, Maya isn't alone. Like, everyone we've kind of seen ancestry-wise across all these episodes stand together with her. Like, all the four so I thought that was dope. And in that moment, she's able to pass this power on to Chula and Bonnie. And I don't know if that would always be the case, or was it just this moment. But they were able to defend themselves. And like I said, it's not the biggest action sequence. But it was just kind of like, in this moment, we are all connected. That's what it means to be a part of this family. And she doesn't like beat the ever living shit out of Fisk, which you would think, you know, a la like Daredevil season 3's finale, where it's just like he was close to doing that. But I was like, how's this going to play out? And she tries to heal him, takes him back to that moment with his dad, and just like, he can't let go of that pain, and she's trying to get him to let go. She's even saying like, hey, you are my uncle. Like, that's the thing, I can't, like, I am happy that you're alive, because it did break my heart knowing I killed you. I tried to keep moving along. I wanted to hurt you. We're both in pain, and what we do is we take our pain and we like submit other people to it. We lash out, we hurt, and we've killed so many people, done so many things, terrible things in the name of our pain. And she's like, my mom healed me, let me heal you. But he's so resistant to it. And once again, it's like, I'm not going to be who you want me to be. And she's just like, let go of the pain. And he doesn't. He's like, what did you do to me? So it's like, did she like fully heal him, or was it in a process of healing him? Like, what does this mean for Fisk going forward? Like, he's not going to have a complete change of heart, but I am curious if it's going to be a slow process, or is it just kind of a thing of, she kind of knocked him off, killed her for a little bit, but even she couldn't heal that pain completely. It feels like he was resistant to it. She tried to heal his pain, but it's not like, no, he's still Kingpin through and through. Like, I don't know if that's going to be something we see come back later on, of like, let the process finish, or is it just going to be a thing of, no, at the end of the day, like, she couldn't finish it, you know? At the same time, you had Henry taking out, what's home dude's name? Zane. Then you also had Biscuit coming through with the monster truck and like rolling over the vans. I'm like, did you kill those guys, or did you just trap them in a van? And that could have gone anyway. Considering how bloody the show is, that could have been morbid of, no, you crushed it and you killed them, but it's most likely like, you just trapped them in there. Because it's like, yeah, you being, like, Henry's one thing, you being a murderer, killing a whole bunch more people than Henry did. I mean, granted, we don't know all that Henry's done in his shady life, but, you know, he's at least killed one person, so. But when it's all said and done, though, Maya does seem to be staying, which does beg larger questions of, when would the next time we see Maya? because in this situation, it is, you are in Oklahoma. So I'm like, is she going to? Because I was wondering if she'd end up back in New York trying to continue dismantling everything. But it's like, no, I want to be here with my family. I'm not going to focus on Fisk. That's going to end up being Daredevil's issue to deal with, not mine. But she is still street level. So I would assume the next time we would see her would be Daredevil born again. But who knows, you know? Especially because there's a conversation that people have been having of, is Marvel going to lean more into their street level heroes, kind of like a la the Netflix? Is that what Marvel Spotlight's going to be in some capacities? It's going to be some of the stuff that's not necessarily fully, like, you don't have to get too caught up in continuity and stuff like that, but that seems to be where things are. I'd actually really hope that Maya and Clint would have another, like, meeting at some point in time. I mean, they're connected, sure, but where she is at the end of her story, it's very similar to where Clint ended up at the end of Hawkeye. He finally made it back home. What happens to Maya? At the very end, she finally made it back home. So I think that'd be poetic for them to meet again, especially, like, both people who've had to do that, like, kind of had to, like, their guilt, their shame, and their pain. Both people, like, we're seeing them on the other side of that in both regards. So I'd be so curious to see what that means in the long run for Maya, and it, like, to the extent of what her powers would be going forward, like that, having that power to heal, and what that could be used for in the long run. I don't know. I'd be so curious, but I hope we do get to see her pop up, and I'm curious what her reasons would be for being in New York. Maybe it is about trying to make up for her past, but it's like, she's mainly going to be in Oklahoma defending her people. Like, that's kind of like going to be her home base. That's going to be her home operation. But, you know, Fisk knows where she is, so he'll always probably potentially, I mean, who knows, like, if, I mean, well, he went out of New York, obviously, for She-Hulk, so there's always a possibility we'll see, like, Daredevil kind of, like, bounce around outside of Hell's Kitchen in New York, but who knows in the grand scheme of things. But it just feels nice that it's like at the end, the healing process is kind of started. I mean, especially because we had that whole opening where Chola ends up getting that sewing machine that she kind of gave to Scully all those years ago, but it's like, nah, I never sold it because I knew you'd be back for it. And it's like, right, kind of rekindling something there. So like, the healing process has already started with Chola, and I think it's spreading out. Like, Maya's deciding to stay, and she's there with her family. Like, this Fisk thing isn't over. It's not like he's dead. He's not done with, like, I don't think he's had a full change of heart. There's sparks of it, but like I said, how much that's really sat with him, we won't know. Like I said, some of this stuff, I can see it not working for people from the emotional stand beats and stuff like that. It worked for me. I'm not going to tell someone they shouldn't feel a way about it. If it didn't work for you, if you're like, the finale didn't really work, I can see why it wouldn't work for me, but I can also see, like, you still wanting a little bit more from it. I get it, because it's also a shorter episode, too, so I figured, like, we weren't going to cover everything probably the way people would want it to kind of conclude. So, once again, I heard, like, you know, the differences of, like, episode lengths and stuff, because it's like, it's 5 episodes versus their more typical 6 episode lengths. So what was cut out, what was kind of left out, did they cut it down to 5 episodes, did they originally want 6 episodes, or whatever, you know, the case may be. I still thoroughly enjoyed it all the way through it, and I'd love to see Maya going forward, like, what her story would be, and just especially if you do keep her street level. Like I said, I'd assume it'd be in Oklahoma, but obviously Fisk has his, you know, reach, but he's going to be definitely staying New York wise, because we got this stinger, the post credits at the end, where he's going to go from there, which I'm like, didn't he do that in Daredevil? Once again, it has been a hot minute. I don't know how, I've definitely only seen season 3 once. I might have seen season 2 twice. I think I've seen season 1 and 2 twice, but that was only in the sense of I rewatched them in preparation for the new seasons. So I think only because of that I've seen season 1 and 2 twice. I definitely haven't seen 3 a second time, but I want to say wasn't he present? I mean, not president, but wasn't he mayor in season 3 of Daredevil? I know at points he had the mayor in his pocket. Didn't he kill the mayor in, like, the first season or the third season? Because I know in season 2 he was in prison for most of it, a good chunk of it. So I want to say, I don't remember. I really don't remember. And it's just the whole conversation about, like, oh yeah, we want a mayor who's kind of a fighter. Bare knuckles. Obviously they meant the metaphor of it, but I don't know if that's just indicative of who he's going to be. He's going to be like, oh yeah, I'm going to be Mayor Kingpin, and I'm going to be able to control things on a bigger scale, and that's going to put me in touch with some other heroes, whether that's a Daredevil, whether that's a Spidey, which everyone wants that. That's one of those, because before being a Daredevil villain, he's associated with Daredevil now, but he started off as a Spider-Man villain. My introduction to Kingpin was as a Spider-Man villain from the '90s Spider-Man animated series. So, kind of getting that back would be dope. But yeah, like I said, I'd be so curious to see where the next time we see Echo. And this kind of goes back to the conversation. At the time of recording this, it's the 11th, and because I'm recording this late, but this will be going up today. There has been no any announcement. Granted, it's only been out for a couple days, but at the same time, it is labeled as a miniseries. Most of Disney Plus shows have been miniseries, but then like that also has been a conversation of, is Disney going to start, more specifically Marvel Studios, are they going to start giving some of these shows more seasons, just because it's like, well, this is sitting here, like, rather than doing all these like mini series which are kind of like movies divided up into episodes, what if we just started like giving more seasons and stuff, like we got with Loki and we're getting with What If. I think animation's in a little bit of a different conversation, Marvel Studios wise, but like live action wise, they've only gotten one thing so far that's had the season 2, and that's Loki. So I'd be curious to see, and like I said, if anything, Echo would probably continue into Daredevil into some small bit, but it probably wouldn't be like a large part of the story. It'd just be probably, I mean, depending on how Born Again ultimately ends up storytelling wise, like how they end up structuring that story, it could just be like a one-off episode type of. I don't know. I'd be so curious to get more with Maya and see where she goes from here, because she still has a lot of redemption to go down, because like she did do a lot of bad stuff and that hasn't been absolved, but that pain has been healed, and I think she can go towards like absolution in a lot of ways, which sounds very like Matt Murdock-ish, because obviously him being the Catholic that he is, and the absolution stuff, like, so it feels kind of like a simple, and I think she's going to try and make up for it going forward, and I'm just curious in what capacity that will be, what her plan is. And I mean, obviously we only got a little interaction between her and Daredevil. I mean, who knows if they ever crossed paths anymore anytime that she was working for Fisk. If they crossed paths, they probably did. We just never got to see it over the years, but I'd be curious to see. Like I said earlier, I would love her and Clint to have a scene together at some point in time, like I said, considering where they both ended up at the end of their series. I just think that would be... Because I feel like, obviously, she has more of a connection with Clint than she does Kate. She could be in the mix, too, but I feel like that's more of a Clint and Maya thing rather than Kate being in the middle of that, because Kate's more like her and Yelena. That's the whole... But either way. So... I would love more with Echo, but I don't think we're going to get any. But I'm all, fingers crossed, hoping they maybe Disney will change their mind. Or like I said, we'll probably just see her pop up in other stuff going forward after we've gotten her story. So I don't know. But I think that's kind of all I really wanted to talk about. To everyone involved, thanks for giving us a great story, giving us opportunity. I know like her appearance in Hawkeye didn't work for a lot of people, but it did for me. And I was really excited when we heard there was going to be an Echo show. I was like, oh yeah, I really liked her. I don't know. I disagreed with a lot of people's opinions on how they like viewed her. I didn't view her the same way a lot of people did. Like, oh, is she supposed to be like a bit bad? It's like, no, she's meant to be this parallel to Clint of like, yeah, she's someone that's angry, looking for revenge, and just lashing out just like he was when he was Ronin. So I didn't look at her as like, oh, she's supposed to be this scary bit bad. She's just kind of supposed to be kind of a mirror for Clint in a lot of ways. Same thing for Yelena in a lot of capacities. So I didn't view her like in the villainous role. Like, yeah, she was an adversary, but I wasn't looking at her in a situation where she was meant to be scary. I don't know. I just had a different viewpoint than some people did on her, but so I know like her and Hawkeye didn't necessarily work for people, so they weren't excited for her getting her own show. I was, and I thoroughly enjoyed what we got. So I'd be excited to see what this means going forward for Marvel Spotlight as a whole, but also, like I said, what more stories we'd end up getting with Echo in the future, whether it is a future season of this if they change their mind, or just her popping in other stories throughout the MCU. But really, that's like I said, everyone involved. Before I wrap this up, like always, if this is all we get for the series, I want to thank everyone for being a part of this. getting this really interesting story and getting this backstory and this lore of the Choctaw people. I'm butchering that every time I say it. I'm sorry. So to everyone involved in front of the camera, behind the camera, thank you for being involved in this series and bringing it to us. So, but yeah, really, that's all I wanted to talk about. So the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.